It's me again. Uh, Doing another creepypasta reading. Um, this one's gonna be a lot more grounded, and less chaotic because the last one sounded really mean, and I wasn't trying to bully the author or their writing skills. I just figured I'd poke fun where I could and make it comedic. I actually really enjoyed the story of Pokemon Transparent, as much as it probably didn't sound like it. The story wasn't cliche at all. Um, the plot points were really good. It was a good story. Uh, Not really scary if you ask me, but I mean, it's a Pokemon creepypasta. How scary can that be? Um, but I enjoyed it as a story nonetheless. And, you know, the author is not an English speaker. You can kind of tell. So this time around, I will have a set of rules to follow when I do these readings. So we're gonna go through those, and then we're gonna get started. Uh, so number one, every story will get a fair critique, no matter who writes it, what it's about, or how long it is. I'll also be going into it without reading the story beforehand, so I'm going in completely blind. Number two, if I can tell the author probably doesn't speak English as a first language, I'll give the spelling and grammar a pass. Three, cliches and story inconsistencies will be addressed as well as plot holes. Number four, I'll give my final thoughts on the stories after I've finished reading them. First, what I thought was good, and then what I think needs work or was bad. If it's bad, it's bad. There'll be genuine critiques without any ripping into the story or the author. And lastly, five, I'll save spelling and grammar errors for the end in the final thoughts, and I won't nitpick things that aren't spelled in Queen's English, which is the dialect I type and write in. I'll also try to pronounce everything as intended unless I get stumped on a weird spelling error that trips me up comedically. As much as I want to be comedic, I don't want to do it at the expense of others. I'll do comedic or dramatic readings of parody pastas, which I want to do anyway. Uh, Good? Good. Anyway, let's get started on Pokemon Dark Green. Does anyone remember Pokemon Dark Green? I'm not referring to the Japanese game with Venusaur on the box. I mean the one sold in American stores with Scyther on the front. I seem to be the only one who remembers this game. I wish I never encountered it in the first place. It all started in 1998 when Pokemon made its way to the US with Pokemon Blue and Red. I was only 7 years old. A friend of mine had let me borrow his copy of Blue, and from that moment forward, I was addicted to the series. When the time came, I was reluctant to return the game to him, but I did. For the next few days, all I could talk about was the game. As a kid, your whole world can revolve around a simple game, like Pokemon. I ended up helping my dad with yard work a few days before my birthday, and I couldn't help but talk his ear off about Pokemon. To my surprise, he said, "Get in the car, we're going to Walmart." Was he really about to purchase me my own copy of Pokemon? I was incredibly excited. This was one of the best days of my life, but it would also lead to one of my worst. We arrived at Walmart, and my father told me that this would be an early birthday gift, and that I could only keep it if I behaved myself and did all of my chores. I would have done anything to get my hands on a copy of Pokemon. We went inside and made our way to the video game section, and there they were, sprawled across the shelves in a beautiful fashion. Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and Green? I had never heard of Pokemon Green, but the Scyther on the cover enticed me, and I had to have it. I grabbed a copy, checked out at the register, and went home as happy as can be. That happiness would not last. When I arrived at my house, I ran upstairs to my room, tore apart the box, and took the cartridge out. The cartridge was very odd. I assumed it would have a normal picture of a normal Scyther on it, just as the box did. Instead, the Scyther was offset to the right, almost as if it was battling something that wasn't there, and it was almost glowing. The background was black, and underneath the Pokemon logo, it did not say green version as I had expected. As unsettled as this had made me feel, I placed the cartridge into my Game Boy. I turned it on and found out that instead of viewing an intro like in blue, it immediately brought me to a screen with only one choice: continue. Where was new game? I wasn't too disappointed. My overwhelming curiosity compelled me to click on continue. I did so, and after a few moments, I found my character in what I assumed was my home. I tried to walk outside, but to my dismay, I could not exit the house. There were no stairs, and I couldn't interact with any of the objects in the room. What the heck? I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach, realizing that my cartridge might be broken, and I may not be able to play this amazing video game after all. I shut my Game Boy off, took the cartridge out, blew on it, and put it back in. It brought me to the same screen, with the same option, continue. I clicked on continue and it brought me to the same room. I tried shutting it off, blowing on the cartridge a few more times, before I finally became too frustrated and gave up. What the hell was going on? I told my dad about the game, and he took a look at it. He was brought to the same screen and the same room, and he, as well as I, could not escape this room. He saw the torn out box on my floor and sighed. Well, we can't return it now. To my surprise, he then said, I'll have to get you a new one tomorrow. I became incredibly happy once more, and I gave my dad the biggest hug I had ever given him in my life. Though disappointed in the game I received, I was glad to have the opportunity to get another one. The next day, my father and I proceeded to Walmart. He walked over to the video game section, and a lot of the Pokemon games were gone. Half of blue, most of red, and all of green had apparently been sold. There weren't even shelves anymore for where Pokemon Green had once been. Wow, I thought to myself, green must be popular. I wasn't upset. I wasn't intending on purchasing another copy of green anyhow, seeing as it didn't work out so well the last time. This time I grabbed red. I had already played blue and attempted to play green, so this time I wanted to try something new. We went home, I ran upstairs, and opened the box carefully, in case we needed to return this one. I took the red cartridge out, placed it in my Game Boy, and played for hours. I played Pokemon Red until the sun came up the next morning. To this day, Red is my favorite of the Pokemon games, and is a great childhood memory. As for Green, I put it in a drawer and forgot about it until many years later. It was May of 2007 when I received a copy of Pokemon Pearl from the Nintendo DS. My dad, knowing how much I loved the series, bought me it, out of the blue, knowing how happy I'd be. "Thank you so much," I exclaimed. Before my dad could even respond, I ran next door to my friend Billy's house and showed him. "What?" he said. "My mom just bought me Diamond." Wait a minute. No, I get what he's saying. Weird dialogue. His friend's mom bought him Diamond. Apparently my dad and Billy's mom had planned this for a week. Okay, there it is. Without the two of us catching on. Without another word, we started to play. We felt like kids again. After many hours, we stopped playing, and we decided to relive our childhoods and talk about the original generation of Pokemon. "My favorite will always be Red," I stated. "Blue for me," said Billy. I recalled the first time playing Red, and then I remembered something that I hadn't thought about in years. The game I had played before Red, or at least tried to. Pokemon Green. "What about Green?" I asked Billy. "Did you ever play that one?" Billy looked confused. "Very funny." Now I was confused. "What do you mean, very funny?" Billy looked displeased. "You and I both know there's no such thing as Pokemon Green." "Yes, there is," I said. He now realized I wasn't joking, and he was further confused. "What are you talking about?" To my understanding up until this point, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green came out at the same time in 1998. It soon became overshadowed by Red and Blue, and this is why I hadn't heard much about Pokemon Green since my younger years. This is what I had thought, at least. According to Billy, the biggest Pokemon expert I know, Pokemon Green doesn't exist, at least not an American one with a Sliver on the front. Determined to prove Billy wrong, I invited him to my house and brought him to my room, where I would show him my copy of Pokemon Green. I dug through the drawers of my desk and eventually turned them upside down in my efforts, only to be let down. Where is it? I distinctly remember putting it in my desk drawer when I was younger. See, Billy said. Green doesn't exist. You probably dreamed it up or something. Billy went home, but I kept searching and searching, only to tear my room apart for nothing. Pokemon Green was gone. The following day, I woke up, jumped out of bed and brushed my teeth, and continued downstairs. There I found my father, with a large breakfast waiting for me, the usual Sunday. We ate and indulged in some small talk about sports and the weather. I decided that maybe I should ask my dad about the game, and so I did. That old thing? Yeah, I took it from your room soon after I bought you the new one, and I tried to return it without the package. They tried to lie to me and say that they didn't sell that game. I gave them a what for and stormed out. They could have just told me they needed the box. Anyway, I think it's on my dresser upstairs. I'll go get it. As my dad made his way to his room, I thought to myself, Billy said the game doesn't exist, and Walmart said they never carried it in their store. This was beginning to make me feel uneasy. Lo and behold, my father came down the stairs and handed me the game I had been searching for, Pokémon Green. I felt an unnerving but overwhelming need to attempt to play the game once more, so I grabbed my old Game Boy from my room and proceeded to play. I would have Billy dissect the game with me, but he's usually at church with his family around this time. I was alone in my efforts. The game started the way it normally did, with nothing but continue to choose from. I chose so, and found my character in the same room, trapped. This time around, being older, I was able to pay attention to more detail. Maybe now I could find a way out. I decided to hit start and see if I had any Pokemon. And my party was a Scyther, not so surprising, level 25, knowing only the moves Strength, Cut, and Flash. Could a Scyther even learn all those moves? I ventured to my items, only to find nothing, and to my trainer stats only to find that I had no money, badges, and 0 hours clocked in, which is impossible. If I hadn't already crossed the threshold of weird, I now had. I gave the room a good once-over to see if I could spot anything I missed as a child. To my delight, I did. There was a boulder in the room. As a kid, I probably thought it was a chair or something, considering I had never really played Pokemon before. The boulder was on the right side of the room, against the wall. Wait a minute. You played blue before green, didn't you? Whatever, we'll save that to the end. Naturally, I had Scyther use Strength, and I was able to move it. I walked up to the spot on the wall that the boulder was in front of and hit the A button. A text box came up, and it just said Dark. Every time I hit A, it would just say Dark. What the hell is happening? I thought for a second and remembered that Scyther knew Flash. I used it near the wall where the boulder had been. A path became lit. A seemingly miraculous exit had been found. I grew less unnerved and more excited as I walked this almost endless hallway that was just big enough for my character to squeeze through. I finally came to a literal light at the end of my tunnel, as if I was exiting a cave rather than a house. I walked through, and where did it bring me? I ended up on the side of my house in what looked like Pallet Town. Mind you, my house looked to be of the normal size, void of any protruding extensions on the side of the hallway where the hallway would have been. Sorry about that. This was odd, but I just shrugged and kept playing. There was also no way to get back in the house, seeing as there were no doors. I walked around a bit and found out there were no doors on any of the buildings. It was a ghost town, aside from what looked like Professor Oak standing in front of his lab where the door should have been. I tried talking to him, but a text box came up every time with ... This made me feel on edge, but I marched on. The only logical thing left to do was head up to Viridian City, so I started towards the grass. Before I could even touch the grass, Professor Oak came up from behind me. What do you think you're doing? It's too dangerous for you and your Pokemon. A battle sequence started. Was I really going to battle Professor Oak? Sure enough, I was. The sprite for Oak was strange. He was looking down at the ground, and the expression on his face made him look as though he were troubled somehow. Oak sent out a level 5 Squirtle, and I obviously sent out my level 25 Scyther. The Squirtle sprite looked the same as Oak, troubled and looking down. I beat it quickly, and Oak said, "Don't go!" Then he sent out, unsurprisingly, a troubled level 5 Charmander. I beat him quickly as well. Oak restated, "Don't go!" Then he sent out none other than a level 5 and equally troubled Bulbasaur. I finished him off and the battle was over, but not before Oak came across the screen one last time to say, "Don't go!" Professor Oak stayed there near the grass, silent, as I walked off towards Viridian City. Once he was out of sight, a text box popped up, probably from Oak, with the words, "I beg of you, do not leave. You won't be able to return." Unmoved by Oak's words, but unnerved by the creepiness of what I was now convinced was a hacked game. Now I know it's hacked. I pressed on towards Viridian City. Sorry, that's my favorite cliched line is, "Now I realized it's hacked." I really like those. Anyway, before I could reach my destination, the light illuminating my way disappeared. It became darker and darker until it was pitch black. Just as it became pitch black, I ran into a wild Pokemon. From this point forward, I will refer to this Pokemon simply as the Invisible. Okay? It was at level 100, and it had no sprite or name. I was unable to fight it, because every time I would choose one of Scyther's moves, it would say, "Scyther is too scared to move." I would run away from the battle and attempt to move, but I would find myself running into the Invisible again. Before I could even take one step, I was stuck. This happened about another 5 times before I decided to stay still and think. What if I used Flash? I had Scyther use Flash, only to find my path to Viridian City dimly lit with a dark green tint. I continued, and the Invisible seemed to have vanished. I finally made it to Viridian City, or at least dark green, dimly lit version. As soon as I stepped foot into the town, a text box popped up that said, "Viridian City, stay forever and enjoy the gym." What the hell? Stay forever? Enjoy the gym? I don't know why I think that's funny. I tried walking back from where I came, but there was an invisible wall. I tried walking forward, only to find another invisible wall at the tip of the town. Oak was right. I could neither return nor leave Viridian City. I calmed down a bit and explored the town. Much like Pallet Town, the buildings had no doors except for the gym. The only person in town was the old man who teaches you how to catch Pokemon. Avoiding the old man, whom I had found creepy even in the normal Pokemon games, I tried the gym. It was locked. I walked all around town and inevitably had to talk to the old man to progress. Reluctantly, I did so. "Hey, so you want to catch a Pokemon, do you? You want to become a Pokemon master, defeat the Pokemon, Wow. Sorry, for character. Let me try that again. "Hey, so you want to catch Pokemon, do you? Do you want to become a Pokemon master, defeat the powerful trainers at the Pokemon League, and enjoy an endless life of solitude?" I was then given a choice, yes or no. Endless life of solitude? I chose no. Well then, stay forever and enjoy the gym. What the hell? I can't enjoy a locked gym. I spoke to him again, and to find the exact same script, only this time I chose yes. He said, "Well then, you're on your way to becoming what you've always wanted to be. But first, come with me. I will introduce you. Wow, I'm sorry. I will introduce you to a true Pokemon master." He walked me to the gym and stood near the entrance. I tried to speak with him again, but it wouldn't work. I guess he wouldn't be introducing me to anyone. I tried the gym once more. This time I could walk in. I was slightly nervous, but thought to myself, it's only a hacked game, made by some mentally unstable... mentally unstable Game Freak worker or something. That's 2 on the funny cliches, if anyone's keeping count. Only part of me believed that, while the rest of me believed this game was more sinister than that. I hope it wasn't the latter. I found my character inside darkness. The gym was pitch black. I had Scyther use flash, and the room became dimly lit with a dark green tint, as I had expected. The gym was nothing like the complicated maze it was in Red. Here it was just a small room. At the tip of the room was what looked like Giovanni. I walked over to him and hit the A button. He said, "Unfortunately, this is where your Pokemon journey ends. There is nothing beyond this point, and you will remain in this room forever. I am sorry." What? That's it? It can't be. I walked around the room multiple times and tried leaving, but alas, I could not. I sat there disappointed. As creepy as the game was, I felt a strong need to finish it. After a few moments, I tried speaking to Giovanni again. This time, he simply said, "I am sorry." Every time I spoke to him, that is all he would say. "I am sorry." I tried talking to him from the side. Sorry. That's a side note. Sorry. But it didn't work. I then tried talking to him from behind, in the space right before the wall. At the end of the room, he turned and said, "I am sorry. I truly am." A battle sequence started. Finally, productiveness. Giovanni has no choice came up in the text box, as opposed to Giovanni wants to fight. That was weird, but I brushed it off like every other weird thing in this game. The battle had started. Giovanni sent out is all the next text box says. And the Pokemon he sent out was none other than the Invisible. At level 100, I once again sent out Scyther against what I could only assume was a Pokemon. It's a safe assumption it's a Pokemon game. Sorry, I said I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry. This time I could actually fight. Every time the Invisible used a move, it would say used, but nothing would happen. Every time I used Strength or Cut, it would miss. Every single time, so the battle was never going to end. Finally, I decided to use Flash. What happened next was quite unexpected. The Invisible became visible. The Pokemon was none other than Scyther, but a darker version, much like the dark green tint cast over the town. The sprite was also strange. I can only describe it as sinister. Evil looking, I guess. We fought. My moves didn't miss this time, but they did little damage to a level 100 Scyther. The dark version of my Pokemon now knew the moves of my Pokemon as well, and after using Cut twice, my Pokemon was defeated. Giovanni came on the screen and said once more, "I am sorry." I was then back in the gym, even though my only Pokemon had fainted. I had double-checked. My Scyther did in fact have 0 HP. I walked over to Giovanni and talked to him one last time. This is what he said. "You have to find a way out. He has control over us all. You will only be another victim. There is a door..." His sentence was cut off by an animation. The animation was of Scyther grabbing Giovanni from behind. I stared at the still image for a while. Giovanni looked so frightened that it made me sick to my stomach. After maybe 3 minutes, the image faded out, and I was back at the gym as I knock over things on my desk. I'm sorry. The room was the same, but Giovanni was gone. I tried to leave, but as soon as I reached the door, another animation started. It was the same as the last one, but instead of Giovanni and Scyther's grips, it was my Scyther. Now I was scared. After a few minutes, the animation played out and Scyther was cut to pieces. Even in the low quality of the animation, it still induced a great deal of fear into me. The animation ended and skipped to an image of my Scyther's head, looking ever so frightened as it lay there in the darkness, and a text box popped up, saying nothing more than, "You failed." Here the game froze. Disturbed, I slid the cartridge out of my Game Boy and threw it at the wall. I ran downstairs and poured myself a glass of water. After calming down, I called Billy and had him come over. I needed someone else to experience this. Needless to say, I was freaked out. Billy came over rather quickly. What is it? What happened? I explained everything to the best of my ability, and he just laughed. Yeah, right, he said. I told him I would prove it. I ran upstairs, picked up the cartridge off the floor, and ran back downstairs and showed him. He was unimpressed. How long did it take you to make this? I was a little angry at this point. I didn't make it. It's real. Play it. You'll see. I handed him my Game Boy, and he put the cartridge in. He turned it on, but nothing happened. He took the cartridge out, blew on it, but to no avail. It didn't work anymore. I must have damaged it when I threw it at the wall. Billy laughed again. You had me going for a second. He then left and went home, while I sat there, still taking in what had just happened just moments before Billy had arrived. I thought out loud. Giovanni said there was a door. Maybe I should have looked for it instead of trying to leave? Really, my thoughts were pointless, because to this day, I can't get the cartridge to work. I wish I'd looked for the door and avoided seeing that animation. In a way, it traumatized me, and I hadn't been the same since. As you can see, I still have the cartridge, and I scanned it using my printer, so you could see a close-up photo of what it looks like. I know it's a little blurry, but it's the best I could do. The game is real. And that was definitively a story. Yeah. I caught a couple cliches. Final thoughts, by the way. It's not a bad story. I actually really enjoyed it. Personally, I'm a big fan of the games where it's like, oh, there's like what is it? Like a puzzle, like Misfortune.gb. I love Misfortune.gb. I love the idea of like a dark puzzle that you have to solve. It reminds me of a video I saw years and years ago. I haven't been able to find it. But it was in like the old like Gen 1 Pokémon style. And it was a lot like that. I think it was kind of styled like Silent Hill in a way. Not like the gameplay itself. But the gameplay itself was like Silent Hill. I think your little character had a gun. But it was in the style of like Gen 1 Pokemon. Like the sprites and the layout and everything. I don't know what it was about. But I don't know, I liked the story. It's what it made me think of. The cartridge looks a little silly. But I mean, at the same time, it's, you know, not a terrible picture. I've definitely read worse, I've heard worse, and I've written worse. You know, there wasn't a lot of... I think there was like one typo that I caught, and a couple like grammatical things. It looks like it's been like really well proofread. It's a solid story. I don't know if I would rate it out of 10, because I'm not really good at that. But I liked it. It was good. There's a couple parts that you know, I thought were kind of funny, but yeah, it's not terrible. I'm saying that over and over again. If you'd like to read it for yourself, a link will be in the description. Until next time, here's an End Slate. Welcome to End Slate, where I've since stopped reading a story, but the video's still going, and I'm still talking, and I have no script whatsoever. So anything can happen. It's all wacky. Anyway, you just listened to Pokemon Dark Green. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a blast reading it, although it was a lot longer than I was ready for. Either that or I'm just dealing with stuff. But anyway, it was a fun story. It was a good story. I'm thinking the next one will be parody pasta, either with a friend or just by myself or something. I want to do something lighthearted. I want to do a change of pace because I don't want to give the impression that I'm just like this serious channel. Like, this is supposed to be fun. But yeah. I have some ideas for where the channel could go. I thought about doing some Pokemon challenges, some Let's Plays, things like that. That'll hopefully be a thing in the future. But I don't think the pasta readings are going anywhere. So if you're into that, then you'll definitely see more of it. Also, I'm sorry again if I sounded like really harsh in the last video. I wasn't trying to be. But yeah, I did enjoy the last story, and I really enjoyed this story as well. I'll make sure that the next video is more lighthearted, maybe something more comedic. I would like to do some funny stuff. That's all I really have for today, so, catch you later, I guess.